full of information and anecdotes. He's setting all the questions. Fire away. He's ready to take anything.
So about the trio arrangement, is Luxembourg, Latvia, Italy kind of already started drafting what they're going to do for the next 18 months? And how early do they start? When will they start?
They've already had meetings, but
yeah.
the key, the finding out of the agenda items will be happening probably now. And then there will be a constant coordination between the presidencies so that you're meant to pass it on and make sure that there is a positive outcome. I don't know that this trio system is really that effective. Okay. That was the intention. But it's not so easy to tell each nation that, give the credit to Latvia or to Luxembourg. I don't think the nation states, member states work like that. So they're very concerned about their own. If you read the website of the Italian Foreign Affairs, the trio tends to be there as a formality. We need to do it. We need to do it because Lisbon requested that, but they still see themselves very much as individual 6-month presidencies. As long as this lasts, and I don't know how long it will last. I think that the Lisbon reforms were just like a lot of other European reforms, one step at a time, and then at a certain point, okay, we've got what we wanted, i.e. a representative that's stable and permanent or semi-permanent, 2.5 or 3 years. This 6-month business, not sure it's a great idea. Also, the bigger you get, the more complex. So like a lot of other aspects of the European Union functioning, it's getting to the breaking point on a whole range of measures. 28 states, it's getting very difficult to manage. But as is the model of the European Union, is one step at a time, because we want to bring everybody with us, not to have some kind of rupture.
Ali, you want to raise your hand? No?
Sorry.
No one else?
So what's your perception of this 6-month presidency? Have you done any work on it at all?
They just heard about it early
This morning?
I think most of them. Yeah. I said most of them. Maybe not most of them, maybe some of them. Can I ask you a question, Bruno? Because I was interested in all these migration issues because I don't think within Europe, other countries understand the pressures that Greece might be under, that Italy might be under. I think Italy and Greece don't really know that those same problems are happening in Spain as well. Maybe Spain has been more successful at dealing with the countries those migrants are crossing and not having to deal with the problems itself. In more specific terms, what is Italy's idea on how to tackle this problem? Is it stronger role for Frontex? Frontex is like an agency created at the EU level to deal with these issues jointly. But at this stage, it's just emerging. Would it be a great role for Frontex, or just giving money to Italy, Greece, Spain, whoever it is, to deal with it themselves? What do you think?
My view is that the European Union has got no idea about migration. And I know that's a very bland, but let's take the 2 countries we're talking about, Greece and Italy. They feel under siege. They are immigration countries, they're not immigration countries. Greece feels in its very fragile state that not only the waters but also the land that it just cannot manage. And then it doesn't require very much to go from trying to put some kind of order to the movement of people in and out, particularly in, to then making political characterizations of them. I mean, Golden Dawn is, which is the Greek fascist organization, which has grown enormously in the last 3 years. builds the base of its program and its support on two things, the economy and the immigrants. Okay? And that's happening also in Italy. Italy is another country that cannot handle immigration. These are, now I don't know about Greece, but Italy doesn't even have a Ministry of Immigration. Doesn't even have one. So if you want a visa in Italy, you go to the police. If you want a visa in this country, you go to a civil authority, just like in the UK, right? So you get an idea that this is external to the country. It's not, doesn't feel like it's part of it. It shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be happening. And we feel betrayed by the European Union for dumping on us, leaving the problem on us that we can't handle. Now, most of the migration, of course, finds the soft borders. Australia is very well protected, if you think of it. You can't get to Australia unless you're, you're on a plane or on a really good boat. And that's still very few people. But in Europe, the ability to enter the soft borders is enormous. So while they will be, hammering on about Frontex and things of that kind, and of course getting more support financially, the reality is that Europe does not feel it can handle it. Okay? And so whether they do all of those normative, forms of little shenanigans and games on laws and exclusions and this and that, the reality is it's a serious issue. Now, if it gets to the point where it's used for political purposes, then we're in real trouble. And using immigrants as a kind of scapegoat. Before we started a little conversation accidentally about gypsies, the group that the ethnic group that everyone loves to hate in certain parts of Europe. It's not very difficult for the Albanians going to Greece. Hated. And there are other communities in north of Greece, and of course Italy has exactly the same issue with particularly Africans coming in from the bottom into Sicily. Consider the state of the economies of these two countries. It's tough.
What can be done to help the Greece and Italy, who are unaccustomed to dealing with immigration issues? What can be done by not just the EU, but the UN and other countries to help them develop policies that will manage these issues and streamline it and make it easier and less cumbersome for them to deal with?
That's a question that has little to do with the European Union, so I'm going to throw it back at you. What would you do? I mean, it's a very logical and very sensible question. In any scenario, what would you do? How do we deal with this? Everyone's looking for a life, of a better life or even a life, and wherever they are it's not working, so they're looking elsewhere to get some opportunity. I'm a product of migration. My parents left Italy to come to Australia. Fortunately there was a invitation, put that in quotes, and therefore when they arrived they didn't have to go into some camp, not camp, but like at Manus Island. They went to Bonegilla, but not quite the same. But at least there was some future prospect there. But how do we do that?
Well, for Italy, clearly they need to establish some sort of immigration system to streamline the application so that there's one channel that can be handled with the different aspects to deal with the irregular immigration, to deal with those going through regular means, with assistance from those that can actually know how it needs to be structured and to provide some sort of assistance. So rather than just being a handout, they're actually helping Italy to develop an institution that can be quite powerful, that can empower them and make them a leader in Europe in immigration, rather than being at the bottom and struggling and going.
And that's what they're doing, and that's, look, I don't think that any of the countries are in such a wonderful state. The UK really is no different, is it? I mean, they feel under siege. Okay? And it's all bad news. And by the way, once they get through the border, then what are they going to do? They're going to get a job. What are they going to do? So it's very easy to say, oh, they're all the criminals that are raping the young girls and breaking into houses and doing this and doing that. I mean, that's already happening, by the way. I mean, if you pick up any Italian newspaper or British newspaper, you don't even, if there's an incident of someone who's stolen something, you can bet 9 times out of 10 it's a foreigner.
With all these widespread issues of migration, was there no thought of, like, they seem sort of obvious problems, was there no thought of that in the formation of those migration structures to begin with?
Look, the European Union, if they were all to walk into an agreement with all things solved, there'd be no agreement. So there's a lot of, let's take one step at a time. And look, there are a lot of positive people who believe that the issue of migration will probably also be resolved. I'm not sure how, but they will present a very positive picture about, particularly the basis on which the European Union was constructed, and that is as a peaceful settlement of post-war Europe, and that we've lived in peace, particularly Germany and France, having had 3 wars in 100 years. Look at the wonderful results. When the European Union was under siege because of the Eurozone crisis and so on, the message that the European Union was sending out from Brussels and elsewhere is, don't forget the point of why the European Union exists. So they're not going to be very quickly convinced that this is not an issue that can't be resolved. The problem is that you need resources, and in particular when it hits countries that are the poorest, and we're talking also not only Greece, but southern Italy, not even Italy, then they feel just overwhelmed. Lampedusa is a tiny little island, and it's the one that has received thousands of migrants, and probably only has about, 600 people normally. I'm exaggerating there, but it's a tiny little island. You can't even find a piece of space for everybody to lie down, let alone cater for women that are expecting, that have come on the boat, little children, not to mention the sick, the elderly, and others. So it's a tough issue, but that would be quite positive. I just sort of say, hey, this is tough. They do have some philosophical problems. One of the things that I've always criticised Italy on, and I've done a lot of work on like the expatriate voting and things like that, is that they have a very strong bloodline connection. An Italian is always an Italian, doesn't matter where they go. But the moment it's a Romanian or a Chinese or a Vietnamese, and by the way, in the streets of Rome, you will see whole ghettos of Vietnamese, Chinese, and others, and what's their legal status? They're not being given citizenship. So there is still this reluctance to want to open up and try and have this closed mind that this is the country for Italy, it's for Italians, and frankly, the others, we'll see. Now that kind of siege national mentality is still there. As much as the European Union is as old as it is, we still have a lot of nationalism which determines the agenda. What you talk about, racing to the bottom, the politicians and so on, it is quite strong in many European countries.
It's a tough topic, immigration. I wanted to raise it, but it's, as you know from the debate here in Australia, or if you don't, please get informed and vote accordingly. It is very tough, and as Bruno says, it's hard to resolve, not just for Italy or Greece or Europe, but in general, in any part of the world that sees the phenomenon. I mean, it's a worldwide issue. I think we're going to have to leave it here. It's already 3. I'd like to ask you to give another round of applause.